Whatto chaps, I'm MagicalMike and this is a compilation video of all of the raid intros a team of us created for the Elitist Raiding Party 3. I was going to script the first part of this and then just add whatever I could remember later on, so I didn't miss any important shoutouts or vital bits of information, but it turns out super long, so I might just not be able to fill the time towards the end. We'll see. I don't know yet, I haven't done the commentary, obviously I'm doing it right now. Also, while I have a lot to say on this aspect of the ERP, I can't stress enough how much of a team effort all of this stuff was, the whole ERP. I really don't want to make it sound like I'm taking a bunch of undue credit, because every single person involved did a proper bang-up job, and they all deserve the congratulations and the recognition. So first off, what are we looking at? What is this and who made it? The first part is an introduction for Spirit Veil, or Raid Wing 1 in Guild Wars 2. This one was edited together by Mighty Teapot and was the first one produced as a sort of template for all the rest of the series. All the footage you'll be looking at throughout this video was shot and gathered together by Zach, who many of you will recognise from the community, and Teapot also. Massive shout outs to them. Without the raw video files, none of this would have happened at all, so thanks lads. And a shout out to the various players that joined the raid squads for recording this stuff too, who I'll never know, and again without them cooperating, we wouldn't have this stuff in the first place. So the first wing was edited by Teapot and shown to a few of us as an example. Then wings 2 and 3, that's Salvation Pass and Stronghold of the Faithful, were edited by his brother Jernert. And then wings 4, 5, 6 and 7, so Bastion of the Penitent, Hall of Chains, Mithrite Gambit and Key of Adashim were done by yours truly. Which means that you'll see a few key differences in the styles here and there, which I'm probably not going to have the time to point out as they fly by, but you guys will pick up on them, I'm quite sure. Huge thank you to Jernert for helping out, by the way. He stepped up at the absolute last minute to save our asses on this one. Each of these videos took me somewhere between 3 to 4 hours to edit, not including an hour rendering each one, so there was no way that I had the time to finish 2 more wings, the 2 and 3. So thanks to him, we have a full set. And I mean, seriously, these got finalised and put into Teapot's hands mere hours before the tournament went live, so it was pretty close in the end. Anyway, I still haven't exactly explained what they are and how they came to be, have I? I will take a little bit of credit for the idea, if I may toot my own doot for a minute here. My idea here was to introduce new viewers to each raid wing, to help make sense of what it is and what was going on the stream, because we all know that Guild Wars 2 can be a real mess of spell effects and particles flying everywhere. We also knew, going from previous raid tournaments that Teapot hosted over the years, that there would be possibly thousands of new players or inexperienced raiders watching the streams, and we were right on that. And with that in mind, I wanted to make it easier to understand what to look out for and what's going on, why the casters might be so hyped about a specific thing, or why some tiny looking mechanic might be so important. What was in my head to begin with as an example was a motorsports broadcast. If you've ever watched any kind of racing on TV or online, commentators will talk about circuits or drivers, cars, tech, previous historical occurrences, specific corners on a track, typical speeds that you might expect on any part of a circuit, overtaking zones, problem areas, all kinds of nuances and details to be interested in. And a lot of current fans of any specific sport, not just motorsport, will already know a lot about this information, and people like to geek out over the stats and the numbers and performances and all that kind of stuff, but a newer viewer to any kind of sport might not really know where to start, and all this stuff might be quite intimidating. So with the help of segments like that, and like this, introducing various elements in easy to understand ways, it helps those newer people feel more included, and that was ultimately my goal, help people get excited and feel like part of the experience. Which meant, originally, I just thought of flying through the raids, talking very briefly about each boss, hyping up a couple of mechanics and how dangerous they are, and then moving on. The pre-recorded commentary idea got scrapped really quickly though. There was just too much to talk about and not a huge amount of time to do it. we figured it best after a trial run to just go with live commentary, and I think that worked out a lot better. Teapot then suggested tooltips for important mechanics, something visual, something relatively compact, with condensed information about those mechanics in an easy to digest format to show on screen as the mechanics themselves are shown in the footage. Boom, easy, right? Yeah, no. A great idea, and I spotted lots of comments in chat about how useful they were in the end, but it took an absolutely immense amount of time, many hours to make these things. I should also say, originally these videos were meant to be just a couple of minutes long each, but for wings 4, 5, 6 and 7 I struggled really hard to go below 5 minutes, because of the sheer volume of information in them, and how large the wings are to fly through as well. Luckily, player downtime in the tournament allowed for it, so it wasn't such a big deal in the end. There is a Reddit thread I'll link below if you want to see or use these tooltips yourself. I started out by drawing up a spreadsheet of literally every single boss, every single encounter, and every single mechanic in every single raid wing. And this alone took so many hours that I just don't even want to think about it, mostly because it's extremely tedious stuff, but also because there's so many mechanics in the raids that I've never known existed or paid any attention to. So here's an example. Matthias's weather effects actually dictate which attacks he's gonna do, and they all do different things. And there's countless examples like that, and the weather effects in particular are incredibly intricate. There's a lot of detail going on in those things. And there's so many examples like that I needed to know exactly how they worked. Now, are the weather effects in need of explanation? Or is it obvious to not stand in the fire tornadoes? I mean, yeah, both, to be honest. It seems obvious enough, but it's also worth pointing them out. And I had to make that sort of decision on every single mechanic in the game. So it took a hell of a lot of time, yeah. This was to eventually lessen the load on tooltip creation, only making tooltips that needed to be made. Not all the ones that I did build did get used in the end videos, but the vast majority did. I even had to, really last 30 minutes before the tournament went live, make one more tooltip that I'd missed as well. For Zera, I think. So to talk about the tooltips themselves, yeah, thankfully, That Shaman has a fantastic tool on his website to make your own custom tooltips, and that's the one that I used, so thanks for that, my man. Also another thanks for helping me with some questions and clarifications here and there with things in the API. That helped a heck of a lot as well. Thank you, my dude. My dude, did that sound sarcastic? It wasn't meant to sound sarcastic, sorry. Just thanks, honest. It's surprisingly difficult to condense so much technical jargon though. Take Veil Guardian Seekers, the red orbs for example. These have a movement speed, a radius, an amount of damage they do, a way to deal with them, a visual description of what they are, a time that they take to spawn and despawn. Even the name of each mechanic was hard to find. I'd say that 90% of them are correct, which is what we've got, either taken from the wiki that already had the information, or in some cases like all of Wing 7 currently, where the wiki was completely blank. So we had to take it from the Guild Wars 2 API, which, by the way, is a complete and total mess to search through in case you want to check it out yourself. I'll probably put a link somewhere, maybe it's in the Reddit thread. I won't get into too much detail about that, but there's tons of duplicate skill names, slight differences in what they do, naming conventions, they're scattered around all over the place, some are old and unused, some I had no idea what attack or even which boss it was referring to, big time sink there, and some I just couldn't find, so I had to make up names for. GW2's Power Overwhelming, for example, is one I was quite happy with. Thought it was pretty clever with the Protoss Pylon / Archon references that were in there. Right. But most were just adapted from Guild Wars 1 skill names, like the Sand ADINA being Grasping Earth, for example. And I think one of Zera's attacks is some Mesmery skills that I took, which I'm completely forgetting the names of right now. Back to condensing that info though, it turns out it's pretty hard to do. While it's nice to have everything laid bare, all of the info on absolutely everything, it's really hard to read that at a glance. So Wing 1 went through a few revisions to get everything looking smart. KISS, or Keep It Simple Stupid, was the mantra that I work by in most things that I do actually, although, you know, I tend to ramble on quite a bit. Most tooltips look nice and simple, but there were some unavoidably huge ones. Doom has many examples in there. His Greater Death Mark and Sacrificial Intervention abilities are extremely complex, and the huge tooltips do reflect that. There was just too many important parts to each of these mechanics to really leave out. It also does quite handily make those mechanics look that much more dangerous, just from looking so huge as well, so there is that bonus effect, I suppose. I should also say that using that Shaman's tool, it takes a long time, because there's so many icons in that. I mean, the amount of choice that you have to make things look a certain way is really, really fantastic. But man, looking for that one specific icon that looks just a little bit like every other icon in a mass of blue or purple takes a long time. And there's a couple of icons that just weren't there, which, you know, isn't a big deal, because I could just take them from the wiki and then just edit them in with a photo editing thing like GIMP. And yeah, I did that. I should also make mention of why these videos happened so last minute as well. I frankly almost forgot why. So I would have done them myself much earlier if I could record the raw footage, but my PC can't run Guild Wars 2 at a smooth 60 FPS to do so, let alone in raids, so I basically had to pass that whole idea off and hope that someone else wanted to do it for me. And that did happen, thanks to Zach, and Teapot was going to edit all of that footage together as well, so I was originally only involved as the idea guy and for the tooltips, but some unforeseen consequences happened. I think one of Teapot's machines overheated a few times during setups, and obviously that became a much higher priority to fix, and it took a bit of a bodge job from the tweets that I saw. So we were left with 3 or 4 days to go before the ERP, and he'd only done Wing 1 as the example video. It would have been easily enough time for him to get the rest done himself too. Oh, by the way, just want to point out how proud I was of this transition on DEIMOS from cutscene to gameplay. Ooh, so satisfying. It would have been easily enough time for him to get the rest done himself too, if his PC didn't sort of explode. I mean, I would say that he did not leave it too late, there was plenty of time for him to get it done. But I woke up a day later to see some very concerned Discord messages and found myself having to step in. But like I said, without that raw footage in the first place, I would have been absolutely powerless, so this really was a team effort, I can't stress that enough. And without Wing 1 example already being done, I would have had no idea how long these would have taken me to do, or how they would have even turned out in the first place. So, honestly, as much as Teapot did give me credit for kind of carrying this stuff, without him, I would have been completely lost in the first place. So, team effort. Team, yes. I'm not sure how much more there is to mention apart from the music, and some other stuff too. I didn't want to mess with any of the sound balancing stuff, so on my end, so Wings 4, 5, 6 and 7 was all silent. There was no music, there was no sound effects, no nothing on the end, on those original renders, and Teapot re-rendered them all with raid soundtracks added on, and I've tried to do the same now on this version, but since I'm talking over it anyway, well, you know, it's not really quite perfectly recreated, is it? I've also got no idea what track Wing 4 uses, so who knows what I've put there this time. I have no idea yet, because I haven't done it. And I guess now I should make as many mentions as I can remember here while my memory allows it. There were tons of people helping out with all kinds of stuff. There was so much behind the scenes stuff going on that it's truly difficult to appreciate all of it to its proper extent. Everything we saw, like the stream layouts, the brackets, getting the teams organised, the wing picker thingamajig, the physical setup for Teapot to capture 3 machines, spectating and running the stream. The 2 spectators, they had a much harder job than it sounds actually. They had to be awake and paying full attention the entire weekend, and even I was struggling with that on day 1 after being awake for 24 hours to get all this stuff done. I don't know if they want their names mentioned, so I'll have to hold my tongue there, but those 2 people know who they are, and I really appreciate the tiny little details that they'd focus in on during their spectating. And I'm sure many other people already know who did that as well, but yeah, nice. All the casters that were involved did a great job. Artists, modelers, programmers, spreadsheet builders, who obviously all the teams that were involved did a fantastic job of putting on a show for us all. The winners deserved everything that they earned, and commiserations to the rest. Everyone who donated to the prize pool, in-game gold and items, and the real money prize pool. and I can't think of who else to mention, and thank for basically making the ERP as good as it turned out. And yeah, it's not really relevant to this video perhaps, but I wanted to add a bit of perspective after tooting my own doot for all of this time. I've had plenty to say about this tiny little aspect of this enormous project, but I didn't want to make it seem like it was all that important. There's just raid intros. There was so much more to this that you're going to have to hear from other people, quite honestly, and I just wanted to tell my version of my little involvement just a little bit. And with that, I will leave you with the rest of the intros. I think there's about 10 minutes left. So a massive congratulations for everyone involved with the Elitist Raiding Party 3 for putting on a phenomenal show. Thanks Teapot, and thanks you guys for watching.